Okay, we'll get going. Looks like the numbers have slowed down. So, thank you so much for everyone who's jumped on. We're introducing the new Bimstore. Today we're basically giving an introduction to the new platform. This webinar will be presented by Ian Holmes, one of our senior technicians, and myself. I'm the business development director of Bimstore Australia. That's us there up on the screen. So, firstly, a bit of housekeeping. We're recording this webinar. We'll make it available to you and those who registered but couldn't make the live session. There's a Q&A box. Any questions you've got, please do get them in there. So, as we go, get them in and we'll try and address them at the end. So thank you. So, why the new Bimstore and some thinking behind it. So the new Bimstore 5.0 is now live. You can jump on to, especially in Australia, Bimstore OZ. That's bimstoreoz.com.au. We've actually carved out a separate domain which hosts the Australian component of the website. Same website internationally. That'll just take you straight to the Australian component. But jump on, take a look if you haven't already. We also recently ran a how-to style webinar on updating your product listings on Bimstore. If you didn't see that, don't worry. We'll send that recording out as part of the update on this webinar. And that I noticed with the registrations, there's a bunch of people who have registered who are current suppliers on Bimstore with their products and whatnot. So that want to give you a good read on how to get the best out of your listings. So quick history on Bimstore. Some of you on the call may already know this, but Bimstore's been around for over 10 years now. We're part of Space Group, which is an architectural firm based in Newcastle in the northeast of England. As a point of interest, Space Architects started their life as Warning and Nets back in 1957. So a lot of history in the architectural space. And I would say, this allows us a unique perspective working alongside a busy architectural practice and other technology companies part of Space Group that operate across the built environment in varying capacities in relation to BIM. We combine that viewpoint with what we hear from the wider industry, from government. We have BIM technologies that do a fair bit of work with government, end users, specifiers, and of course, manufacturers and product suppliers. Every few years we update Bimstore and release a new version, not because it's fun, it's actually pretty crazy process, but it's to continually evolve based on what we hear from all those sources I previously mentioned. And to try and help the challenges at the forefront of the industry. For instance, years ago, consistent high quality manufacturer BIM content was hard to find in a single place. So we went and did something about it, and that was Bimstore. And then as we evolve, we try to address the different challenges that the industry presents. Fast forward to 2019, the previous version of Bimstore was released, which was Bimstore 4. This was focused on putting products at the heart of BIM, really, and being probably being a champion for a smarter future in design, construction, and management of buildings. Where your product data ends up. And really, it was about supporting manufacturers to help them achieve this and satisfy demands of the users and specifiers. This very much talked to the industry at the time, we found, where people saw the use of BIM. As we moved through the last few years, it became clear that BIM can help the built environment even more than it did historically and provide an underpinning for collaboration, accuracy, and environmental responsibility, really. Elaborating on that a bit more, I'd say you'll see this through the new website. There's two key areas that we believe that we're really looking to address. And here's just a quick look at Bimstore through the ages. 2007, 2011, 2012, 15. Yellow was the theme there for a while. But yeah, as I spoke about, 2019, really getting the products at the heart of BIM and design, and now we've got Bimstore 5. So yeah, this Bimstore 5 really focuses on accountability and sustainability. We think accountability starts with accurate information. We use the phrase that we help connect the virtual dots. So from the outset, this ensures projects are delivered on time and as intended. We think modern specifiers demand more in terms of quality and up-to-date data when it comes to your objects. And there's a definite pattern towards an emphasis on green credentials and an awareness of an aversion probably to greenwashing. So on the platform, as an example of accountability, we validate and check all suppliers' EPDs before they go live. And Ian's going to show us a little bit about that. And sustainability. So Space Group as a whole are a certified B Corporation, which means, as a business, we're super committed to embedding environmental responsibility into everything we do. When it comes to the BIM process, we've integrated EPDs, as I just mentioned, but also embodied carbon data, again, which Ian's going to show us through, and some operational carbon insights. These are all, probably the best enablers to help the industry fight climate change. There's so many examples in the news. I'm sure we've all seen climate change is having huge impact on, on local levels all over the world. And helping our industry combat climate change is one aspect. One of the others is helping the industry to build more responsibility. I think I'm using a UK slide deck. Everyone in our office in the UK, the last year has been talking about the Grenfell Tower report coming out. Ultimately it was a specification data. It was a data issue. There's so many parts to it, but a huge part of that was, the flow through of information into what the product that actually went on the building. And you can see Liverpool Echo Arena car park, 1,000 vehicles destroyed, similar problem. And I use these two pictures a lot in presentations. Australia really deals with a lot of product selection issues, when it comes to home design and bushfire areas. All that's applicable to the whole country. We had the Cross Tower in Melbourne. I think it was around 2014. Though Australia as well deals with fairly extreme heat, where specifiers, Revit's so smart these days, where specifiers and users need to have correct data at their fingertips to make good decisions about the buildings they're designing. I'm a huge advocate of thinking, we can't just keep strapping air conditioners and huge HVAC systems to all of our buildings, everything from residential all the way through to large commercial and to office towers and whatnot, and just expect that we won't have an energy issue. And, you can see energy almost at the forefront of politics in Australia. And yeah, we just believe what connects all of this is accurate information. Accurate information is fundamental to a safer built environment. And I've been to so many architectural events over the last year and a half, and I just think everyone agrees that we all owe it to the industry to be significantly better, and leave a better future for the generations that succeed us. And, we can do a small part in that by good product data, making sure buildings are designed correctly. So yeah, that's a brief introduction of the new Bimstore, where we came from, what led us to here, what we're trying to do now. And I'll hand over to Ian, who will give us a look.
Thanks for that, Tyrone. So I'm just going to give a kind of a live demo of the new Bimstore OS platform, run through the kind of what we've changed, and specifically run through our sustainable feature and how that kind of works on Bimstore. The idea behind the design change was very much Bimstore's grown up. I joined Bimstore in 2014, so unfortunately I had to put up with that yellow branding for far too long. So having a new clean website like this is awesome. From the homepage, we've simplified it to essentially get people to find your objects quicker. We've added quick search terms to quickly direct you to our top products. This is going to be upgraded in the near future to be more dynamic and bring in new categories when they're trending. We've updated all of our product collections, which contain a variety of BIM components specific to a certain type of BIM file. So like kitchens, products for house builders, we have ones for fireproofing, ones for APDs, and so on. So go check them out. They're a great one-stop download and great exposure for manufacturers. We've also updated all of our kind of branding, our Bimstore guides, getting started with BIM, our BIM Crunch magazines, and a variety of case studies. So all of that's been updated with the website, and it all looks really good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to click into one of these search terms, and that'll bring up the new search area Bimstore. This is where you start to see the sustainability design come through. We've added in filters that allow you to directly filter out objects depending on your search term to quickly filter products with an APD. When you do filter with an APD, you can see how quickly it filtered out them objects. We've made huge improvements to the performance and the categorization of the individual products. So when a product does have an APD, we stamp that just to give it a bit more, just to make it stand out that little bit more. So it's kind of putting sustainability at the forefront of the design. Just going to click into this example of the Bimstore listing. This is where we begin to see that sustainability data pull through even more for users. We introduced the feature of the comparison dials. Now, what these do and what they're intended to do is give users informative information before downloading the file on costs, how that compares to similar products in that category, the carbon that product emits from leaving the factory, and the life cycle of that product. So you can very quickly begin to see high-level information of how that product compares to other within the same category. All of this information is either pulled from the Bimstore admin area or the APD document. So what we're doing is asking manufacturers to log into your Bimstore admin area and put in the cost for the product, put in the lifespan of the product, and upload an APD or self-certified sustainability data. Below you can see we've kind of got this beta feature. We've added this because there's a whole heap of information getting added to Bimstore on a weekly basis for sustainable data, and our algorithm is constantly being updated. We anticipate this will be updated, removed in a month or two once we have a lot more information from manufacturers on the Bimstore platform. So to give you an idea of where this information is being pulled from, I'm just going to scroll down to the sustainability environmental data section. We've added two new sections, the environmental document declarations, which is your document, your APD document. We've added an expiry date so you can see when that document expires and if you're working to the latest standard of that document. However, the heading above is essentially an extract of the APD document. For the dials to work, we require a minimum of manufacturing A1 to A3, which is the embedded carbon of the product as it leaves the factory. The other declarations with referring to the embedded carbon aren't necessary because things like transporting to the site, where the site is kind of all high-level information that Bimstore probably doesn't need to know, and it's very hard to track that information from this level. So when a manufacturer uploads this information to the Bimstore admin area, We don't just accept that information. We have to review that information to ensure that what the information is put in is matching the APD. This essentially just reflects what we promote as a Bimstore brand, which is accuracy of data. So that backs that up. And we also want to make sure that them comparison dials aren't being, for a use of term, playing the system. And what I mean by that is someone isn't putting in a very low cost in a high lifespan for that particular product. We have checks and processes in place that prevent that. So we know the average for that product category, and that's something that we will be checking and validating before pushing the APD live on Bimstore. So that's specifically to manufacturers that have available APDs. In the case where they don't have available APDs, we've built in and allowed manufacturers to upload that same data. It just won't be APD approved. So if I just kind of scroll down here, you can see all of the components that have a valid APD document. If I click into the Starride one, which doesn't have the stamp, you can see there that the dials are still configured. This is because, in this case, this manufacturer has submitted their own self-certified sustainability data. You'll notice we haven't stamped that approved APD data, and it doesn't show in the APD filter. This is because we still want to give users the option, manufacturers the option to supply that data if they have it. But we understand APDs are very expensive, especially if you have a huge range of components or products. So getting that done for every product could be a huge cost to the manufacturer. So we wanted to build in that flexibility into the site so that manufacturers can still use the dials, still offer high-level insights into the cost, carbon, and the lifespan of the product, and see how it compares to others in the category. So that's quite an important feature, just so we can kind of get the comparison dials working across the site. The final version of uploading an APD is where if a manufacturer doesn't provide any data or APD information, self-sustained information, what we have done is we've built in the ability to use, I'm just going to click this first listing, we've built in the ability to use generic data from third-party sources. So we are using kind of clever systems in the back end of Bimstore to extract this data from a variety of data sources and third parties. When this is the case, you can see we state that it's a generic sustainability data, and we state exactly where that data is coming from. So we are being totally transparent on where this data is coming from and how we got it. You can see there in the below list that in this case, only the minimum requirement of manufacturing A1 to A3 has been added to the site, which is driving the carbon dial. The cost in lifespan can still be added independently in the Bimstore admin area, which will be followed up with a video showing how that is done. The way the comparison works, behind the scenes, we've had to recategorize all of the items that Bimstore lists. So we've had to kind of drag that down to a granular level and basically show, recategorize the product so it doesn't compare unfairly. We want to make this as fair as possible when it's comparing products. So if I was to just select this to a mechanical product range, and what I mean by that is we don't want to compare a small residential boiler to a commercial boiler of some sort. So we've done that by recategorizing all of the products on Bimstore and getting into the granular level of details of how that's compared. With that said, this is kind of the high level insight into what we're doing with Bimstore. This is the first push of Bimstore 5. We do have more upcoming features that we are introducing. We are introducing a mobile app, which is coming next month. And what that is doing is it's It's going to be a condensed version of Bimstore, and we're bringing in VR, so you can see your BIM objects on your phone in your room environment, which is going to be an exciting one to get some components into and shown how they're actually going to be used in reality. And you'll be able to apply different materials to that and different configurations within that within the VR mobile app. And that's pretty much it from me. So with that said, I'm going to move on to questions.
Okay. Thanks so much, Ian. We've got a couple here. Let me check. There's a question here, came in early. I think you might have answered it, but can you help with the average carbon data for the product type? We're pulling that data from a few different sources.
Yeah, so the ideal scenario
there is another
is
related
EPD.
question. Yeah. There's another question here. Out of interest, what third-party data sources do you use? Are we using?
There is quite a lot to
from
that.
what I understand, is it? Actually, I'll let you answer that.
Yeah, there's a few different data points and data sources we are using. There isn't a standard sustainability data set for all products. This is only applicable to a handful of them. Off the top of my head, I don't know the entire list, but we'll be able to follow that up in an email, which can get all of these sustainable generic data sets, if you like, that we're going to use when EPDs aren't used or the self-certified data isn't used.
Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure if we might be breaking up a little bit. Hopefully everyone can still hear us. Products and EPDs, I can answer that one. There'll be a couple of things. One, we have a very popular collection on info email after this, and we actually have a search functionality from okay, what else have we got? Two more. What's the process of validating the EPD and sustainability data with us?
So what we're doing is
Ian,
we're asking manufacturers to log into your Bimstore account. From there, you'll be able to click onto products, and you'll be able to see all of your product listings. Within there, you can add the EPD document. When you do that, it'll bring up that online form, which you then are required to populate, which is your manufacturing A1 to A3. Once that's done, you will hit submit for approval, and then we will, and the internal team at Bimstore will just validate that, make sure the EPD matches the data you've inputted, or if it's self-certified, we'll make sure it's within the average, and then if it's all good, we'll submit that, and then it'll be live on the website. If it's a case where it's something kind of doesn't look right, we'll send that back to you and give you the reason of why it was rejected or needs revision.
Okay. Last question. How would you like us to use / position the new branding? That would be I can answer that. Will anyone that's currently hosting on Bimstore will send out a new branding pack. And yeah, I mean, in terms of position, really up to yourself. But yeah, we have updated some of our branding for Bimstore 5.